What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader coming back to you with another price guide. And today we're going to take a look at loose graded vintage Star Wars action figures. We have some foreign variants to cover, some Spanish figures, as well as some Ledy Mexican figures. And the prices, I think, in general, are kind of flat in this video. I didn't see too many big surprises, but I know there's a lot of you out there that kind of want to keep up with what the market is doing, and that's why I make these videos. So thanks for those of you that support the channel. I really appreciate it. Let's go ahead and dig in because I do have a lot to cover. Let's start off with some Spanish figures. Now, unfortunately, this seller was only shipping to the UK. So he was not shipping outside of the UK, and that, I think, probably made it difficult for some of us to either bid on it or even see it. And I was alerted to these by a Patreon supporter. I was really tempted to bid on this Spanish POC Princess Leia UKG 80%, and I was just juggling too many things and was really focused on Hakes, to be honest. So I let it go. I was going to have Tim over at Boss Bounty. I was going to have him bid for me and then collect it and then ship it to me. And I was like, you know what, it's just too complicated. Who cares? So let's let it go. But this one had the new case style. It was graded UKG 80%. It did have a lot of hair rub, though. A lot of hair rub, as you can see there. And so you could maybe make your argument that it was a little overgraded. But still, it's a early Spanish POC Princess Leia. Pretty desirable figure. And again, it was a UKG 80. I would say it's probably more like a 75 personally, but it did sell for 223 pounds, which is about 281 US dollars. But as I said, this seller's items he did not ship to the US. He also did have a Spanish POC C3PO UKG 85%. I do have one of these in my collection, same grade, same company, everything. Again, you could maybe make the argument it was a little overgraded because there were some kind of rubs to the vac metallized gold paint on this C3PO, but still, it's a very nice variant. I would argue mine is in better shape than this one, but this one sold for a lot less than what I paid for mine. It sold for about 203 pounds, which is 256 US dollars and change. But still, that's a really nice example. Pretty much any early Spanish POC and high grade. It's just tough to do because, as we've talked about, the early Spanish figures, they imported Hong Kong parts and they assembled and painted them in Spain, and the paint apps in the POC factory were not particularly good. Once they merged with the PBP factory, while still not nearly as good as Hong Kong or Taiwan or some of the other Palitoy factories, they were a lot better than where they were for the early Spanish figures. Here was a PBP Spanish Snaggletooth, Red Snags. It was graded UKG 90%. So again, a little bit easier to find this one in high grade because they did produce these for the U.S. market on Made in Spain U.S. Kenner card backs. So the quality standards had to be a little bit higher because Kenner required that to be the case for anything shipping to the U.S., fair or not. But this one was definitely a beauty, definitely a UKG 90%. You can see how nice. The first thing I always look for on Spanish PBP Red Snaggletooth is the toenails. For whatever reason, they just are hard to find with perfect toenails. And this one definitely does. I mean, I can tell you that if this Red Snaggletooth was in human form and I saw these red toenails, I would be very excited. It's a very nice figure. UKG 90. Now that one still sold, even though it was only available in the UK, it still sold for 228 pounds, which is 290 US dollars. Now you compare this UKG 90 to this UKG 85, which is where, right here, I moved it up a little bit by accident. So this was a UKG 85, also very nice. You can see that it had a little bit of a scratch on the silver belt buckle. So that's probably what kept the grade down on this one. And this one sold for 140 pounds in a buy it now. So 177 US dollars versus $290 for a UKG 90. So a significant price jump. But I thought this is one I sent out to my Patreon supporters along with the next few that I'm going to show you. I assume that one of y'all bought this, but to me, that was a very fair price, given that it was a UKG 85 versus the 90% that sold for quite a bit more. Here was a Luke Skywalker, just standard Hong Kong, UKG 80%, definitely an 80%. It's a very nice example. Very slight paint degradation to the limbs, the arms and legs versus the torso color. So I can see why it got the 80%, very appropriately graded. And that one sold for 175 pounds, which is 221 US dollars. Now you bump that all the way up to UKG 85%. You're probably talking 350 to 400 US dollars, somewhere in that ballpark. An AFA 85, I've seen sell even recently $550, $600 maybe if it's a new case style. So again, I thought, that was one worth sending out, because while it was only quote unquote an 80%, it was only 221 US dollars. That to me is a very fair price for a Luke Farm Boy. Pretty much any Luke Farm Boy in 80 grade or higher, no matter what the grading company is, you're going to be spending 200 to 250 minimum. So I thought that was a really nice one. And then the same seller also had this blank raised bar, no COO Luke X-Wing UKG 80%. That one did sell. It was only 99 pounds, which is 125 US dollars. Just really tough to get this one in higher grade than that. And to my knowledge, blank raised bar variants for the vintage Kenner figures, those are French Meccano figures. You guys, as you're leaving a like, you can leave me a comment if I'm incorrect on that. But to my knowledge, anything with that blank raised bar, which I'll show you a close up there, you can see it right there on the back of the calf. There are China raised bars, and then there's blank raised bar. To my knowledge, the blank raised bars are considered Meccano figures. And again, correct me if I'm wrong on that. I have no problem admitting when I'm wrong, okay? I'm not the know-all. I'm not a know-it-all. I don't pretend to be a know-it-all. So if I'm wrong, comment below. But that's always been my understanding. Blank raised bar is French Meccano figures. So that one, again, sold for 125 bucks, which I thought was a pretty good deal. Next up was the Dark Dome, Solid Dome R2-D2. So this would be like the early bird version of R2-D2. And it was a UKG 85%. I almost bought this. I really did. I was tempted on this. I don't have a loose graded R2-D2. I've got some sensor scopes, but I don't have a loose graded. And that one just looked every bit of an 85 to me. I'm sorry. It just was beautiful. You could maybe make an argument that there might be some light scuffs on the head there. But the paint apps on that blue, that dark blue, were just beautiful. Sticker also was in really good condition. It's just some light scuffs on the very back there. But to me, that smells like an 85, all right? I've just seen some AFA 85s for the R2-D2 that were not as nice as this. And they were at auction and things like that. We talked about them on the channel, I think. But, to me, this looks like an 85, okay? And I just thought it was beautiful. It was 365 US dollars. An AFA 85, you might be talking as high as 600 bucks. So to me, that was a good value. I'm willing, I don't, for me, it's not about the grade or the grading company. It's about the figure. And this figure just looked like an 85 to me. So I was really tempted on it. It did sell, luckily. I was just, as I told you, when these items were selling, most of these items were selling, I was bidding fast and furious or saving fast and furious for the Hakes auctions that were ending, and I spent all my money. I spent all my money at Hakes, so we'll be showing those in a video here soon if I haven't already by the time this video airs. But beautiful figure, very, very nice. Here's another one that I sent out as a buy it now alert, and I think I also had it in my what to buy video. And this was picked up by a good friend and Patreon supporter. UKG 85% Applehead Yoda. And again, I talked about this. There were some rubs on the hand that you can see there. So you could, in theory, argue that it was slightly overgraded. Maybe it's an 80 plus, whatever. I don't particularly care if it's an 80 or an 85. It's the Applehead. That's one I still want to get here soon. And this is another one I was tempted on. But luckily, a Patreon supporter grabbed it before the what to buy video went live, and he told me he bought it. So thank you, Jim, for buying this for me. Buying it so I didn't buy it for myself. So awesome pickup though. I mean, to me, I'm going to keep an eye out for it. And I talked about it in the what to buy video. There were some 85s and I think even maybe a 90. There's an Applehead Hong Kong, and then there's also an Applehead Spanish Puck. The Spanish Puck usually goes for 600 to 650. Just the standard Hong Kong Applehead goes for between usually 400 and 450. This one was priced at 373. To me, that was a very fair deal for what it was. And I think it should have been discounted because it did have the hand rubs. So to me, that was an awesome deal, and I would have paid that all day long. Here was another one I was really tempted on. This was a loose graded Y-wing diecast. A very nice display by UKG, and I have a CAS 75 Plus, so I was tempted to buy this and upgrade mine and then sell mine. But at the end of the day, I decided that the CAS presentation is just a little better. It comes with like a little ramp. It's a little bit bigger case, and the OCD part of me couldn't get past having a UKG graded diecast versus the rest of mine that are CAS graded. So I don't know if that's fair or not, but it was higher graded, and I think it was appropriately graded. I looked pretty closely at it versus mine, and this one did have the famous color rub on the bottom of it, and that's from the bomb, okay? That red bomb just wears off and causes kind of a red stain on both the bottom, and then the top also can get a red stain, which this one was very minor, but it did have a little red stain there by the guns. That turret at the top does cause a red stain as well. Mine's got the same issue, but I think mine is definitely a 75 plus. The more I look at this one was UKG 85. I think this is more like I think if you crack this out and send it to CAS, it'd probably get an 80, maybe an 80 plus. So mainly because of the stains, but still it got an 85. It's still a very, very nice presentation. I just like the CAS presentation a little bit better, but the price was great on it. It was only $352 US, best offer accepted, 280 pounds, best offer accepted. I didn't look up what it sold for. It was another $50 to ship it to me. But it costs, I think, $180 now to loose grade a diecast at CAS, and they take 10 months or more. I've got some that are at CAS now, so it's going to be a while. But anyway, I was kind of waffling on it, but I'm glad that somebody else was able to grab that. I don't need both, and I certainly would have resold my CAS 75 Plus, but that was a beauty. Was it overgraded? You could maybe make the argument, but so what? I mean, I've in my old age, I've gotten a lot less kind of angry about overgrading or having to have a certain grade. It wears me out, you know what I mean? So I was tempted on it though. Great pickup, whoever got that. Next up, that same seller also had, this is a good example of why you want to have your items worldwide. And I get it. You don't want to deal with global shipping. You don't want to worry about it being damaged by customs, which does happen. So I understand why the seller didn't want to, but I wanted to show you a price dichotomy where it was only available in the UK versus if you had made this worldwide. Okay, so we've got a UKG 85 that was only available in the UK at auction for the Ledy Bib Fortuna. It sold for 97 pounds, which is $122 US, which is a bargain. That's a great deal versus this one that was available worldwide that was only a UKG 80%. Again, it's the Ledy Bib Fortuna. And it appropriately got an 80% because it did have some fraying on the robe that you can see there. You see the fraying, the white fraying on it, versus this one that was pretty much perfect. I mean, this is a perfect figure. But anyway, that one was an 85. It sold for $122 US. This one was only an 80, and it sold for $214 US. So this seller lost at least double. I would argue probably even more by having it only available in the UK. And again, I'm not knocking the seller. I get it. You don't want to ship it to the US. That's your prerogative. But I wanted to at least show you the price difference on a higher graded figure versus one that was lower graded that sold for almost double the price. So pretty crazy there. Again, the Muffin Man also had a UKG 80% Obi-Wan Kenobi Ledy. Very, very nice. It was definitely the correct saber. You can tell just by looking at it. It's a thick tip saber, and it's got the famous mascara eyes, which the Ledy is known for, as well as the Spanish PBP version of Obi-Wan Kenobi. So they use the same mold. It's just a different factory that applied the paint. And that one sold for 199 pounds, which is $252 US. I'm a little bit kicking myself. I probably should have bid on this one because that's one I would like to grab. But great pickup, whoever got that one. Going back again, I'm kind of mixing and matching here. But going back to the same seller, he had a Ledy UKG 80% Squid Head with the burgundy cape, a very desirable figure. And that one actually sold at market value. So in this case, the figure still sold, even though it was only available in the UK, it still sold for market value. It sold for £500, which is 632 US dollars. That's about what it would sell for, whether he had made it available in the US or not. I mean, they usually go for about that price in an 80 grade. And then finally, that from that seller, before we dig into some other ones, he had a Ledy removable hood Jawa graded UKG 90%. Very, very high grade, very tough to get in this grade. And it sold for big money, 1,380 pounds, which is 1,744 US dollars. Again, I don't think this seller lost any money on this one, given the final sales price. That's about right, if not maybe a little bit low, but not by much. The Ledy removable hood Jawa, while very rare, it has come back down to earth a little bit in price. During the heyday of the market bubble, this was like $2,500. But I've seen consistently some recent sales, both CAS, UKG, AFA, all three of those. I've seen all of those be listed loose graded over the last 6 to 9 months, and they've all come down a little bit. Doesn't matter who the grading company is. It was a UKG 90. In my opinion, for a 90 grade, that was probably about right. Maybe a little low, but not by much. So maybe the UKG 85% Ledy bib Fortuna sold for less because the fact that at the same time he had auctions going for the Burgundy Cape Squid Head and the removable hood Jawa. Everybody was focused on those. I talk about that as another strategy sometimes for those of you out there at Hakes or even on eBay. When a certain seller or a certain auction session is going, sometimes those more common items will just fall by the wayside. People overlook them because they're all focused on the rare figures. In this case, it's the Burgundy Cape Squid Head and the Jawa. So you can get good deals on those more common figures. And that's basically the strategy I took at Hakes. I picked up a 45 back Greedo, which I'll show you on the channel. That one went for cheap. It was sold after the buyer's premium. I think I paid about $460. I did up pay for a 21 back transition card Death Star droid. I think I paid about market value. I paid about the max of where I was willing to go. If I had gotten outbid one more time, I would have let it go. So I had my number. It was the max number. And if one more bid had come in, I said, okay, I'm out. So luckily I got it. But that one was a little more rare. It was a transition card, 21 back ESB. But it's still pretty common relative to some of the other awesome stuff that was selling at Hakes. So I got lucky on that one. So we'll show those on the channel again. By the time this video airs, maybe I've already released the video for Hakes. I haven't gotten them in hand yet, so I'm waiting to show those. Next up, I've got some baggies. We got a UKG 85 baggie for the Biker Scout. That one sold for 206 pounds, which is 260 US dollars. Then we had a UKG 85 SWA baggie for Darth Vader. That sold for 385 US dollars. That one was in Canada. I thought that was a good deal. I was tempted on that one. That's a baggie version for Darth Vader I don't have. And then we also had an AFA 85 B-Wing pilot baggie. That one sold for $162.50. That's about right. Loose, ungraded in near mint condition. Just the baggie ungraded. They usually go like 70, 80 bucks, somewhere in that ballpark. So that price was very fair for a graded example. Same seller also had a AFA 85 size Snoodles with the silver microphone loose graded. This is one I talked about in my what to buy. This is one you don't see come up very much. For whatever reason, the band members usually all get graded together. And so this is the first time I've seen a size Snoodles loose graded by herself in a long time. And that one, sold for appropriate big money, $258. He also had some beautiful high-grade Droids figures, AFA 85 Jan Tosh. That one sold for about $230. The Kez Iban is always desirable because it comes with the black Imperial blaster that also matches with Luke's Stormtrooper in disguise. And I've got him coming up here shortly. But that makes this figure somewhat expensive. It was only an AFA 80 plus only. That's perfectly fine for my collection. I'd like to grab this one. I don't know why. I don't have any of the Droids figures loose graded, but for some reason I really like this figure. It's the purple. It's the purple that really pops on this one. $285 on that one. You can probably expect to pay about $350 or more for an AFA 85 for Kezibon. Uncle Gundy, this one was a very high grade archival case, AFA 85 plus, and it sold for big money accordingly, $320. And you can probably pick up an Uncle Gundy mint on card for about that price, probably yellow blister, but $320 I think is probably about right, I guess, for an AFA 85 plus. Anytime you get 85 plus or 90s archival cases, expect to pay big money. And then next up, same seller also had a blue Snaggletooth AFA 80 old case style. This one did have the toe dent. That one did have some discoloration to the torso, hence the 80 grade. That one sold for $690. That's about right, given some of the prices that sold at Hakes. There was an 80 plus that sold at Hakes, as well as an 85, and both of those went for much more money than this. So for an 80, $690 feels about right. They also had an archival case, uncirculated 80 grade Taiwan Princess Leia. That one sold for $261. That was a good deal there. I thought that was a good deal. To me, I'd probably get it recased, ask AFA to fix the cape so it's around her shoulders, put it in a new case style, archival case. It would look really nice. It might be a little expensive, though. You think about an U80, probably about, you know, at the max $300. So I think if you get it recased, you're probably in it for more than what it's worth. Maybe not, I don't know. But that was a nice figure. And then here is that Luke Skywalker Stormtrooper disguise, old case style, AFA 85. It sold for $910. New case styles for an 85 grade, you're probably talking $1,000 to $1,100 minimum. But that was a beauty. AFA 85, old case style, $910. And then finally, we had a UKG 85% yak face. That one sold for 495 pounds, which is 626 US dollars. Now, an AFA 90 old case style sold on Hakes for $1,240. $1,240 versus this UKG 85 new case style that sold for about half that price. So I think this was a better deal. You know, to me, an AFA 90, I get it. You're going to pay big money for it, but me personally, I'm not paying $1,200 for it. But I understand why. It's an AFA 90. But to me, a UKG 85 is perfectly satisfactory for a yak face. They're fairly common, but they continue to command big money. Anyway, that is kind of the gamut of loose graded figures I wanted to cover in this video. I hope you enjoyed this look. Please leave a like, comment below, and I'll be back soon.